Good day, everyone. Compliments of the season. Yes, we are still in the new year, so I should be saying compliments of the season. I am Miss Chika Mbonu. I'm going to be taking you on research methodology. Let's go to topic 1, the concept of research and projects. Defining the basic concepts. At the center of any discussion on projects or project writing lies the concept of research. This is to say that no good understanding of the concept of projects will be possible without a prior understanding of what the term research is. The need to begin quite logically from the point of view of research is therefore apparent. So what do we mean by the term research? Before we go to that, project writing, you don't just write a project without understanding the concept of research. The origin of the word research is a French word recherche, meaning to look for again. The word is composed of re, which in the French language means again. Re, R-E, R-E, which means again. And then cherche, to look for. Cherche, to look for. Sorry, my keyboard is having issue. Re, again. Cherche, to look for. The whole idea was born out of the fact that when someone is searching for something, it is expected that he has an idea, however faint or clear, about what to do to find that thing, where to find that thing, and how to go about looking for and finding it. With these requirements fulfilled, the person may or may not achieve his aim of finding what he set out looking for, depending on a number of other critical reasons. Now, when you're looking for something, you have to have an idea of the kind of places you will look for it. Take for instance, you go to the market. You want to buy stationeries, you want to buy a book. You don't go to where foodstuff is being sold. You look for where you can get stationaries. That is where you get the book. So when you're searching for something, you have to have an idea of the kind of area you will get that thing. Research, searching and searching again. You may search for the first time and you will not be able to get good results. You will have to search again. That is do it again, search it again at using an alternative means. We have different people that have tried to define research. They defined it in different ways, but they were all talking about the same thing. Let's look at a number of them. We have Duro Tolu, 2003. If he fails, he begins to re-examine his initial ideas. If he fails, he begins to re-examine his initial ideas, which were nothing but assumptions about where his object was supposed to be found. He makes assumptions. Let me try this way and see if I can get it there. And then if he doesn't get it, he has to go back, re-examine those initial ideas that he has. What he thought should be done to find it and where he thought it could be found. So he has to re-examine those things in order to get a better result. He then considers several alternatives to these assumptions, and after making up his mind over such new ideas, he starts yet another search. So if he doesn't get it the first time, he will have to consider alternatives to looking for it, and you go back and start another search, and he keeps searching until he gets what he's looking for. That is, he starts to search again. Thus the term research simply implies looking for something again in other alternative places, putting up new efforts better than the ones you did before, and taking nothing for granted. This thus formed the basis for the many definitions of the term research, as given in so many authoritative works. For instance, Bush and Hatter, 1980, defined it quite simply but broadly as the systematic quest for knowledge. You keep seeking for knowledge on a particular thing. It's systematic, in order, systematic quest for knowledge. While Drew, 1993, viewed it as a systematic way of asking questions. In the course of research, you ask questions. You get views from different people. That is when you begin to use questionnaires. You're going to get to questionnaires, a systematic method of inquiry. As for Liddy, 1993, the term research is the manner in which we attempt to solve problems others have presumably solved. So you may not be the first person to solve that problem. Some people may have worked on that particular topic, gotten their results. You are not doing it again to get a better result, to add to the knowledge that has been existing before, based on what other people have done. Vest and Kahn, 1998, took a more comprehensive approach in their own definition of research as the systematic and objective analysis and recording of controlled observations that may lead to the development of generalizations, principles, theories, resulting in prediction and ultimate control of many events that may be consequences or causes of specific activities. So when you get your results, it will lead to generalizations, principles, and theories. The above probably explains why Oshuola, 1993, considered the term simply as the process of arriving at dependable solutions to problems through the planned and systematic collection, analysis, and interpretation of data. So when you work on your data, you get your results, you are able to get conclusions. When you interpret your data, you get your conclusions, you're able to use it to solve problems. On his own part, Adetoro, 1986, took the methodology approach in defining research as a process of discovery that must follow certain rules of conducting investigations, and which is generally based on scientific inquiry, where available facts are closely examined or investigated. You can see that they're all saying the same thing, but in different ways. This is in line with the approach of Lowell, 1995, in which the term was conceptualized from the point of view of the various stages involved, as identifying a problem, stating the purpose, collecting and analyzing valid data, and drawing valid conclusion. 1. Identifying a problem. You identify the problem. Identify the problem. Okay. All right. Identifying the problem, stating the purpose, collecting and analyzing valid data. You state the purpose, collect data, and analyze it, and then draw conclusion. You state the purpose. You collect your data. You analyze your data. And then you draw your conclusion. Alright, so you identify the problem, state the purpose, collect your data, and draw your conclusions. Onyere and Anumu, 2001, took a result-oriented approach in defining research as a process of finding out a solution or answer to problems. Every research is aimed at finding answers to problems. There must be a problem. Remember we said the first is identify the problem. When you identify the problem, that's the very first thing before you begin to state the purpose. So you have to identify your problems first, and at the end of the day you should be able to provide answers to the problems. They explain further that it is a planning process towards seeking and getting desirable information, leading to the provision of plausible answers to reasonable questions. This is with a view to enable people predict future occurrences. From the answers to those problems, you're able to predict future occurrences and carry out systematic investigations to solve problems. Take for instance, you're working on an antibiotic that is supposed to take care of a particular ailment. Based on the results you have gotten, one could be able to use the same antibiotic to treat another ailment that will come up in future. In the words of Odediran, 2001, research is a science of knowledge through investigation that is concerned with systematic way of finding information on an issue, subject or object. Thus, ISA 2003, deducing from the wide range of opinions as contained in the definitions above, concluded that the following are considered as central to the idea of research. 1. It is a process which is systematic and organized rather than haphazard. It's very systematic. It's done in an organized way, not in a haphazard way. The existence and proper definition of a problem to be investigated. The problem must be defined, properly defined. You identify it and then you define it well before you begin to go into collecting your data. 3. Collection, analysis and interpretation of relevant data towards arriving at solutions to problems. So you identify your problem, you give it a proper definition, state it properly, collect your data, analyze the data that you have gotten, and then interpret it. From your interpretation, you're able to draw conclusions, and then you're able to solve problems. 4. Generalizing outcome of findings towards better handling of similar events in the future. Alright, we'll go to the characteristics of a research. From the foregoing conceptualizations of the term research, one can safely make the following summary as being the characteristics of a typical research project writing. A. That a typical research project must begin on the basis of a problem in mind, for which purpose the research sets to resolve. Yes, before you go into research, you must have something in mind. What is the problem I intend to solve? Because you remember that at the end of your research, you're expected to provide the solution to a problem. Solution doesn't come before problem. There must be a problem before you bring in the solution. Generally speaking, it is believed that there cannot be a research project in the absence of a problem of interest. Good. There has to be a problem. B. That the outcomes or findings of a typical project should help to develop generalizations, principles and theories which when applied in other similar situations in the future could produce the same results. That's like I talked about the antibiotics. That is, the methods employed to arrive at the results or findings should be reproducible and yield same results under varying circumstances elsewhere. C. That the process of conducting the research project must of necessity be as systematic and empirical as possible through the collection of relevant data for the project. This becomes imperative if B above must be achieved, if you must get your results. D. To achieve both B and C above, there is the need to carefully and appropriately select research plan. You need to have a plan. Select research plan, otherwise known as design or method, serving as guideline for the research procedures. You need a plan. Even somebody that is building a house needs a plan. You need a plan, a design, a method that will act as a guideline, something that will guide you in the research procedures. E. In the end, the outcomes or findings of the research project should contribute something new to the growth of knowledge in that field of study. Like I said, it has to be able to solve problems. There has to be something new you're adding to knowledge. Remember, what you're doing may have been done by somebody else before you. So what you're doing should be able to give results that will add to the knowledge, the existing knowledge on that particular topic. Thus, every research project must help to expand further the present frontiers of knowledge. Let's go to the processes involved in a research project. The processes involved in a typical research project have become scientific in nature. This scientific nature of research projects has in turn brought about their empirical approach to the problem solving rather than speculations. Thus, there are well-defined stages involved in this scientific empirical approach to research undertakings, which are quite similar to the characteristics of a research project given above. These processes include A. Identification of a researchable problem. Just as we've said before, you identify it. Although it is expected that a research project should emanate from real-life situations, it is equally important to note that not all real-life situation problems are researchable. There must be a balance between these two. Yes, some are researchable and some are not researchable, but there must be balance between those two. B. Clear and concise statement of the research problem. This is quite important in view of the fact that it is just one thing to be able to identify the researchable problem. It is yet another quite different thing to be able to put same down very precisely, concisely, and clearly. So you identify, but after identifying it, you should be able to put it down very clearly. The problem will cease to be researchable until and unless one has been able to state it so well, as good as to be precise, concise, and clear. Yes, it can only be researchable when you've made it very clear. One has to be clear about what he's doing before he goes into the research proper. C. Formulating necessary research questions and or appropriate research hypothesis. Note that there is a difference between research question and research hypothesis. A research hypothesis is a definite statement whose supposed truth or practicability is testable through the scientific method. Yes, a statement that will not, the truth of the statement will be testable based on the experiments you're going to do, the research you're going to carry out. That is what will determine the truth of that particular statement. It is a form of statement which declares one's prediction on the subject matter, intended to help clarify certain ambiguities or doubts. So your results should be able to clarify certain doubts. On the other hand, a research question is an intelligent question posed by the researcher, consequent upon the clear statement of the problem. The research questions are set in such a way that once answers have been provided to them, the research problems in question become resolved. So a research question is just a question the researcher asks in the course of his research, in the course of his study. He asks questions, he gets views from different people, and then once he gets the answers to these questions, it is resolved. You can see it's more different from a hypothesis. A hypothesis, the truth of it is dependent on the results of your work. Thus, the research questions forms the basis upon which the questions on the research questionnaire, otherwise known as questionnaire items, are formed. You send questionnaires and give to different people to fill for you. Although there are research projects which have hypotheses and research questions combined, especially at a very advanced stage of research, several other research circumstances required only one of the two. Some can get it combined, but several others require just one of them. So you get your questionnaires, you give to people. No man is an island, so you can't do it. It's not just your own view. You give to different people depending on the work you're doing. You may be working on the taste of a particular product. The taste it will have on one person may be different from that of another person. So you have to gather this information from different places. If you're working on a scientific topic, some may require you're going to different environments to get your samples. You go to a different environment, pick samples from different places, and then you take the sample to the lab and you work on it. When you work on it, the results you get, you get your data from the results you get from the various samples. D. Collecting required data for the research. Due to the empirical nature of the scientific method of research, data are to be collected on the subject of investigation. Instruments such as questionnaire, personal or direct observation, interviews, and documentary sources are often used for the purpose of data gathering. So you send questionnaires, like we said, give to people to fill for you. They will give you their views. You get them together. Personal or direct observation by the researcher, the observations you make on your own. Interviews, you can interview people, go on one-on-one interview, and documentary sources. Like I also mentioned, scientific work, you go to environments, pick up data, and then you work with them. The instruments are so designed that they seek specific information from respondents, that is the people that are filling the questionnaires for you, which would help in providing needed answers to the research questions and or providing relevant data for testing the hypothesis. By the term respondents, we refer to the group of research subjects, that is the people, from whom the researcher intends to collect relevant data for the purpose of his research. This could be students in a class or group of classes, primary and post-primary institutions, farmers, technicians, medical doctors, engineers, market women, etc. You can see that these are people from different levels. So each one has his own view about a particular thing. So this is only at a particular point in time. E. Presenting for analysis and discussing the data collected. Since the researcher will basically collect raw data from the field of study, it is expected that such data are presented first and then subjected to discussions and interpretations. Yes, you get the data, you have to subject them to discussion and interpretation. There are so many methods of doing this depending on such things as 1. The type of research in question. 2. The type of instruments for its data gathering. And 3. The types of data collected in the end. Regardless of all this, however, it is important to note that tabular presentation of data as well as diagrammatic representation in the forms of charts, histograms, and frequency tables are common. You need these things to be able to interpret your results. Presentation in form of tables. It should be such that once you look at the table or the chart, the histogram, the frequency table, line graphs, bar graphs, and so on, once you look at it, it will be easy to get the results interpreted. So these are really very helpful in interpreting results. For hypothesis testing, the various but relevant statistical methods are employed and are so presented for necessary discussions and interpretations. F. Drawing inferences. Drawing inferences, conclusions, and recommendations from the analysis. This is where the so much talked about contributions to knowledge is made manifest and clearly stated. That is what the inferences, conclusions, and recommendations are set out to do. So it is based on your conclusions, your results. You analyze your results, you run your conclusions. That is what will help you to make contribution to existing knowledge. And it is on this basis that generalizations, principles, and theories would be derived. That is how you derive your principles and theories. When you get to that stage, it is no longer a hypothesis. You can see that by the time you get to this stage, you have run your data, you have done your interpretations, you have gotten your contribution, your conclusions and all that. It is no longer hypothesis. You should be talking of principles and theories now. Stakeholders have hereby assigned responsibilities with a view of ensuring that the present conditions are improved on. Why research project? There is always a reason for doing anything. So why do we research? The question why research project is a very fundamental one, which seeks to know the importance of research projects. However, to answer the question adequately, there arises the need to examine briefly the issues surrounding the emergence of research itself. It is no exaggeration that we have always lived in a world full of so many facts yet to be known and yet to be discovered. To be able to rise above the challenges posed by his environment, therefore, man was created curious and inquisitive. By nature, he sought after finding answers to the numerous puzzling and yet to be answered questions in his environment. Due to the fact that he was always surrounded by this situation, man found himself being compelled to search for answers to this wide range of unknowns as a precondition for his survival in his environment. Yes, it is in our nature as human beings to be very curious, because there are so many things in the environment that you know nothing about. You begin to wonder, why is this yellow in color? Why is it that when it moves this way, this one moves that way? Why is this big and why is this small? Why is this on top and why is this below? We have so many things in our environment that we need to research to find out why they are that way. So man is always curious. Man is always curious to know what is happening in the environment. We tend to be very, very inquisitive. And it's this inquisitive nature of man that leads us to running research. There are 1,001 things to run research on. So we keep researching, and researching. Even though man had always been in this condition of ever searching for solutions, it is remarkable to note that the approaches have also been crude and haphazard. Yes, we have always had researchers right from time. Our forefathers did it. We are doing it in a better way now. It was only with the advent of science that things changed for the better in this regard. This is because science brought about a formalized and systematized approach for this effort, such that there are new, common, and indeed widely accepted ways of carrying out research. So science has made it easier for us, less stressful to run this research. This is what many often refer to as scientific method. Thus, the importance of research to individuals, groups, corporate bodies, and governments in both private and public lives of any society cannot be overemphasized. The importance of research in society. Research was considered as one of the most important tools for A. Advancing the frontier of knowledge. The outcomes or results of research projects are expected to contribute something new, however little, to knowledge in that particular area of study. By such a contribution, the present boundaries of knowledge in that field will be extended and expanded further. Most inventions and discoveries made by man, especially those of the scientists, are direct products of research efforts. So we keep researching and adding to knowledge. Like I said, whatever research you're doing, it is with the aim of bringing solution and adding to the existing knowledge. So the more we research, the more we increase the boundaries of knowledge. B. Promoting progress in the society. This is related to the above in that progress in society is a direct product of the application of research results to addressing social, political, and economic problems. Sure, though such applications to human society is made a better place. Sorry, through such applications, the human society is made a better place for everyone to live in. So research helps to address so many problems in different areas: social, political, economic. And as it's addressing those problems, the world is becoming a better place. This has had a tremendous impact in the condition of our generation today when compared with those of our forefathers, definitely. Few examples of such research products include the computers and internet. When our forefathers were doing their own research in their own crude way, they knew nothing about computers, they knew nothing about the internet. In fact, without computers and internet, I will not be able to address you right now. I will not be able to deliver this lecture to you. So it's all about development of science helping out in research. C. Enabling man to relate more effectively with his environment. Due to the complex nature of man's environment in which man had found himself, he has little or no choice than to subject the environment to his own which and caprices. It must survive the reward of such efforts in terms of research has helped man not only to better understand his environment, but also to subject same to his desires through conquest. We need to conquer. We have to keep researching and conquering grounds. By conquering his environment, therefore, man has proven that he is in control of what happens in and around his immediate and even distant environments. No wonder that we all talk about the global village today, in apparent reference to the world, which has now shrunk to the size of a typical village as a result of breakthrough in the area of telecommunications and computer, which are themselves products of research. So he's not talking about the global village, it has really shrunk because of telecommunications and computer and all that. D. Assisting man to accomplish his purpose. As a result of the exponential advances mentioned above, it goes without saying that individuals and groups who live today have had their lots much more improved when compared to those of the earlier times. This is for the fact that research impact naturally translates into great social, economic, and political benefits for the citizens. Individual goals become much easier to accomplish, thereby making life more meaningful and desirable to the majority. So it keeps improving and improving. What our forefathers did has been improved on now. Even what we are doing right now will be improved on by our children, the generations yet to come. So that's how science keeps improving. E. Helping man to resolve his conflicts. It is a known fact that man lives in a state of constant conflict, if not between him and his environment, certainly between him and his fellows. Like I said, no man is an island. And as long as you relate with people, there has to be conflict. This has been accounted for by the fact that what he needs to know far outweighed what he already knew. It is by constant engagement in this discovery process known as research that he stands great chance of getting answers to his numerous problems, thereby resolving his conflicts. Like I said, there is so much to research on. What man already knows, what man needs to know outweighs what he already knows. So we need to research more and more. You can never get tired of researching. There's no how you can research and search out everything. How is project writing different from research? The New Webster's Dictionary of the English Language 1992 defines project as a course of action intended or considered possible, a systematic planned undertaking. It goes further to define research project as a set of tasks for a class of school children in which for a given period of time Subjects are taught with special reference to some chosen topics, and pupils are encouraged to make independent inquiries to supplement formal teaching. So, project writing is completely different from research. That's why project writing is done at a lower level. Research, you have to go out there and get your run, look at the environment, get your data yourself, and go into proper work. But project writing, you just get materials and then you begin to write. Writing, on the other hand, is the process of arranging words in logical order and carefully chosen so that the reader can understand what the writer means clearly and concisely. Aina, 2002. Writing, it has to do with arranging words logically so that if somebody comes to read a write-up, the person does not need the presence of the writer to be able to understand the write-up. It's written in such a way that in a logical order, such carefully, such that one can easily read it and understand it without the writer coming to explain anything. He remarked further that writing skills include choosing appropriate style. A. Providing correct spelling, punctuation, grammar, and capitalization. So once the spellings are correct, the punctuations are in order, the grammar, everything, someone else can read it with understanding. B. Ensuring appropriate leadings and subheadings, sentencing and paragraphing. C. Editing and revising manuscripts appropriately. It becomes clear from the above that both project writing and research point to the same thing, except in slightly different ways. Although both refer to the processes of conducting an investigation, research tends to be associated more with the advanced form of such investigations. Like I said before, research is on a higher level, is on a more advanced level. For instance, it is common to hear of research at the postgraduate and even postdoctoral levels mainly. On the other hand, the term project writing associates more with the undergraduate long essays intended to be written, supervised, bound, and submitted to the individual candidate's department in partial fulfillment of the requirements for the award of certificates. Students in tertiary institutions like the polytechnics, colleges of education, and universities are very familiar with this concept, and hardly could any of such students graduate without fulfilling the righteousness of submitting a project work. It's actually a fulfillment of righteousness because they don't really go into deep research. They just get materials, they write their long stories, and then they submit. That's why it's like fulfilling all righteousness. But for research, you have to go deep into the work and be able to defend what you have done. Thus, one can conclude that research is the advanced form of project writing. It's like a senior brother to project writing. Not only is it more rigorous than project writing, the sophistication and expertise professionals are readily and extensively deployed in its conduct. Whereas project writing represents the elementary form of research, it is the advanced kind of project writing that is usually referred to as research. Like I said, is the senior brother to project writing. It is in an effort to differentiate between these two that such terms as project, thesis, and dissertation have been used to indicate the levels of which a particular research work applies. When you run a research, you should be able to defend it. In fact, if you're not able to defend it well, you may need to go back and do a better work to be able to defend it. You have professionals there that will even add to what you have done. Even though the three terms can be used interchangeably, it remains a fact that the use of thesis dissertation applies more appropriately for postgraduate research than to undergraduate project writing. Whereas a project need not necessarily be defended, both thesis and dissertation undergo a number of defenses, bringing about a variety of input from many experts in the study. Like I said, professionals will be there and they will have to give their input into it. Hence, the rather higher quality of the research work as compared to that of project writing. This book is, however, targeted primarily at those who fall in the project writing group for obvious reasons. As for the group of advanced researchers, numerous texts already exist to take care of their needs, while this can only serve as appetizer to them. The driving force here is to produce a text that will simplify the rather difficult subject of research undertaking, especially from a practical approach point of view. This is in the hope that students will be better disposed to seek a rather genuine understanding of this subject matter thereafter. Scientific research and common sense. What is common sense? It is said that common sense is not common. Common sense. It is called common sense, but it is really not common because it's not everybody that has it. Practical good sense and judgment gained from experience rather than special knowledge from school or study. It's a practical good sense of judgment. It's gained from experience, not just going to school and learning from the classroom what you're taught in classroom. It's gained from experience. What we consider to be common sense depends upon our prejudices. Common sense behavior patterns are learned only by practice or by listening to one's elders, discussing their experiences and trying to draw analysis between what happened previously and experiences we are likely to encounter in the future. From practice and also from experiences, you listen to elders, people that have been in this world long before you even entered, people that have had so much experiences before you came into the world. You listen to them and you're able to gain. What scientific research does is to provide special knowledge as opposed to common knowledge about a phenomenon or relationship. Some striking distinctions between scientific research and common sense. A. Scientific research is much more systematic. It systematically builds its theoretical structures, tests them for internal consistency, and subjects aspects of them to empirical tests. Common sense, on the other hand, may not be as creative as scientific research. It rests its judgment on experience. A new idea is reasonable and admissible as long as it looks like the old ones. In most cases, fanciful explanations of natural and human phenomena are blindly accepted. For example, an illness being related to an evil deed. You can imagine that. If somebody is sick because of an evil thing that was done. Economic slump being attributed to some angry gods. B. Scientific research systematically and empirically tests theories and hypotheses. The man in the street tests his hypothesis too, but rather selectively. He selects evidence simply because it is consistent with his hypothesis. For example, hypothesis: the place of the woman is in the kitchen. The place of a woman is in the kitchen. You know, women are seen to be the ones that work in the kitchen. You won't come into a house and see a couple, you see the woman relaxing in the sitting room while the man is there running up and down in the kitchen. So the kitchen is seen as the office of the woman, is a food processing industry for the woman. So it is the woman's office. Based on what one believes, the answer may probably be yes, that is basing it on common sense. A scientific approach, on the other hand, will always insist on systematic, controlled, and empirical testing of hypotheses. Not a matter of whether you're a woman, you're the man. You should be in the kitchen, you should be in the sitting room. Is based on systematic, controlled, and empirical testing of a hypothesis. Scientific researcher is never satisfied with his own preconceptions and hypotheses. He must test them in the field. It must be tested. When you test, you get your results. You don't just assume. Remember, we said it's not based on assumptions. C. The scientist tries systematically to rule out variables that are possible causes of the effects he studies, rather than the variables he has hypothesized to be causes. A layman seldom bothers to control his explanation of observed phenomena in a systematic manner. He ordinarily makes little effort to control external sources of influence. Method of acquiring or attaining knowledge. We have different methods of acquiring knowledge. We have the method of tenacity. It is a case where men hold firmly to the truth. That is, they know something to be true because they hold firmly to it, and because they have always known it to be true. They know this thing is the truth, and they hold firmly to it. Nobody can change their mind about that. Men will often cling to their belief in the face of clearly conflicting facts. 2. The method of authority. This is the method of establishing belief. For example, the Bible says so. The Bible is the word of God. God does not lie. So once the Bible says so, it is right. The mother says so. We all believe in what our mother said. My mother said this. My father said this. My mother said this will grow this way. My mother said it will grow that way. So once it is coming from the mother, it is correct. Children do that a lot. Whether the mother is right or wrong, as long as it is the mother that has said it, it is right. A renowned economist says so. Even we also think of medical doctors. Once a doctor says, take these drugs 2 times in a day. If you don't take it 2 times in a day, your sickness will not go. We believe them. Doctor has spoken, so we must obey. Professor has spoken, so we must obey. It is correct. That is the method of authority. 3. A prior method. This relies on arguments with reason and not necessarily with experience. Reasoning it out, not necessarily that you have experienced it. It is a rationalistic position. 4. The method of science. This relies on observation or evidence from the field on ground. There is much inclination towards neutrality or objectivity. Personal beliefs, perceptions, biases, values, attitudes, and emotions of the researcher are de-emphasized as much as possible. So it's not a matter of my mother said this, that my professor said this, so it is correct. It is based on what you have on ground, what you have worked on, the evidence, what you have observed, the observations you have made. That is where our research is. You make research. You don't just say, my father told me this is this. No, your father has spoken, but you have to run a research and get evidence, get proper evidence, and be able to draw your conclusions. So we have a number of references here. Adetoro, Aina, that we mentioned up there, and so many other references that we mentioned in the text. Next class, we are going to go into topic 2, types and methods of research. Thank you very much and have a great day. Bye.